Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. What's up, everybody? What's up, Callow? How you doing? What's going on?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I had to tape early yesterday without Callow because I got in to see a foot specialist because my foot's been bothering me for a while. And as it turns out, um, having been around athletic trainers, not really knowing anything about medicine or orthopedics, I was able to self-diagnose myself because I recently decided at 52 to start playing pickup basketball again.
Oh boy.
Huge mistake.
Oh boy.
Huge mistake. And I have plantar fasciitis.
Oh no.
Now,
No.
I hurt my foot. And, I'm like, I'm not a complainer. So I'm like, all right, I'm sure it'll be fine. I just didn't even, I'm like, I even played again on it, which was really
That's a
stupid.
mistake. That's a
Really
mistake.
stupid. I played a couple more times on it. Really stupid. And of course, not in real basketball shoes, like total stupidity beyond stupidity. And my foot just started like aching all the time. It hurts to walk. And, I just like, I'm like, it'll heal itself. 2+ months later, it's like the same problem. So I finally got in to see this foot specialist kind of last minute, which is why I was like, I can't tape the show. I got to go see a doctor, which I know scared you because I'm like, I have to go see a doctor immediately, because
Yeah.
I got in with this guy but I self-diagnosed. I was very proud of myself. I felt I can diagnose. I know how long I'm out. I didn't realize how long this injury is. He's like, yeah, it can take 6 to 9 months to really get over it. I'm like, 6 to 9 months? Like, no, player. Like, what you got? Like, what you got? Or do I need to call the commanders people and be like, yo, whatever you all do for feet, I need it. Because when training camp
Right.
starts, I can't be hobbling around the whole time. So I'm going to go through some treatment that's supposed to accelerate it. And if that doesn't work, I am going to pull a couple strings and go up to my man, Al Bellamy, and go, look, man, yeah, hook me up here, man. Like, I can't hobble around, but I have it. I've never had this before. I got to tell you, like, once you have one of these things, you'll think about them very differently when a player says they have this and they're like, well, you could play on that. Let me tell you something, man. It hurts to walk on this thing. Like, literally step. It hurts to walk on this thing.
No, I always say that about anyone that's like, oh well, it's only this injury. And I'm always like, have you ever had that
Uh,
injury? Because you actually don't know what they're going through every day, let alone getting hit or
yeah.
putting that pressure on it. So yeah, I mean, look, my thing that I'm gonna criticize you on right away is when I got back into running 2 years ago at this point, the first thing I remember from when I previously was a runner was do not skimp on your shoes. That your
Yeah.
shoes are like so important that yes, running's very accessible, but like put that investment forth, bro. You're older than me, and you're playing basketball on what? Some
Yeah.
beat up New Balances, man. Like, come on, you had to have known to like get some support out there, dude.
I'm
What are
not
we
a
doing
person who
here?
gets injured. Like, I think that's part of the problem. Like,
You are
I
now.
don't
You're
get
old,
injured.
dude.
Like,
You're getting
I'm not,
old.
I know. Well, there's been a lot of realities of age that have happened to me over the last couple of years. Not like I'm always like I'm the over 50 person who's like 50's not old. I don't look at it that way. But I've had a few body breakdown things that have been, or some memory lapses, where I'm like, oh crap, like it's all catching up to me. And this one was bad, but this was my typical this is typically how I deal with things. Like, I hurt myself and I'm like, it'll be fine. I'll even go look at it and just whatever. And I'm like limping around the house. And my wife's like, you got to do something about that. And 2 months go by, I never did anything. And I was very proud of myself for self-diagnosing it. I'm like, I have one of two things. I have plantar, this is from my covering a football team forever. I have plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendonitis. And I was actually scared of the other one because I'm like,
Sure.
I don't want to pop
Yeah.
my Achilles tendon
Right.
because then I'm going to spend the whole season in a walking boot. Like, that's the last thing I want to have happen. This turned out to be plantar fasciitis, and I have a subsequent bone spur to go with it. So, I will not be joining you. Not that I was going to for any marathon running. That's not happening.
So what is the treatment? Are you in a boot or is it just like
No, just
walking around?
I have flat feet, so he got me some inserts to put in my shoes. That actually was, was a relief. All these extras. The problem is apparently that like the blood flow to this region of your body isn't very good just in general, and therefore the healing doesn't take place very quickly. Actually, I'll give Logan Paulson a lot of credit because last week when I was at minicamp, I'm like, look, man, I know you're not a trainer, but let me talk to you for a minute because I'm sure you've had this. Like, what do you do? And he told me everything. And actually, it was exactly what this foot specialist said to do. So Logan Paulson knows what to do when you get plantar fasciitis. He gave me the exact exercises. So I got to do a bunch of exercises, but I'm going to go in for a treatment where they take like what is described to me as an extremely supercharged Theragun, and they're going to like do something to my heel to try to what they describe as like force healing to begin quicker. They're going to make it have what they call an event to make it heal quicker. And he's like, 80% of the time, 6 weeks later, you're going to feel like new. If you don't, we'd be surprised. And he showed me the tear, and he's like, the tear that you have isn't as bad as a lot of the ones that we see, but he's like, I get you want to get over this. So I'm going to get the old, he's like, and oh, by the way, you're going to feel like someone shot you in the heel. You're not going to like this. So yeah, that's what I'm going to get.
I was going to say, that's the old, we're basically going to hit you to get the blood flow going there. That's all. That's what that is. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it is. So like, so that I'm going to start doing that. If he's given me a couple weeks, he's like, do the exercises, wear the inserts. And if your heel just kind of starts feeling better, don't do this. He goes, but if it doesn't, and you really want to be walking around the sideline on training camp and not feeling like you're hobbling around everywhere, because by the end of July, I'm just on my feet all day long outside. There's no sitting. I'm like on my feet. I can't be like limping. I can't have that. So I'm going to get it fixed. Got it.
Good luck. Right. Godspeed, sir. Godspeed.
Let's see. Very quickly, I normally don't start with basketball, but we got us an incredible series in the NBA Finals. Indiana routs Oklahoma City last night. Tyrese Halliburton plays on what was a bad calf. The game was never close. They were blowing them out from the get-go. It never got close in the second half. That atmosphere in that arena has turned into one of the best. Really, I think they had like our season, except they went even a step further. They were probably genuinely somewhat surprised that it went as far as it did. They've taken the hard route to do it. They beat the Bucks, they beat the Cavaliers, and they beat the Knicks, and now they're here. And in each of those series, they were, if not underdogs, they were perceived as. So they've had a same miracle run. And I don't know, like, not that I like hate OKC or anything. I kind of want to see them pull this off because it's very rare that a seed of this level, they're a 4 seed, they would be the only seed lower than a 3 since 1995 or something like that to win the NBA Finals. I mean, this is a full-on historic run. I want to see them pull it off. I don't know why. I kind of like, they're intoxicating. I like what's going on with them. Nothing against Oklahoma City. They're not a villain to me, but I want to see Indiana pull this off.
This is the closest championship we've got since the Nats won the World Series in 2019. In terms of like the run to it, who they're playing, really no one talking about them each round. Like, as you said, they beat the Cavaliers, who are, one of the best teams in the league, and no one gave them a chance in that series. They beat the Knicks, who probably shouldn't have been there, kind of like how the Nats took on the Cardinals. Remember the Cardinals beat the Braves that year where it shouldn't have happened? And then
this was a weird year because the two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals, neither one of them should have been there.
Right. And so
neither one was expected to be there. The Celtics totally no-showed. Like, I hated the way they played. And then they got the injury, and that did it. And Cleveland, to be fair, got hit by the injury bug at the perfect wrong time. And that helped Indiana get to where they got to.
Sure. But like, I look at the teams that they played, it reminds me exactly about the Nats. And, even when they got there, I was like, OKC will probably win this in 6. And here we are. It's going to be a game 7. They've got a puncher's chance, more than a puncher's chance, especially with how, it's funny. These games have been pretty good. Last night was the biggest dud of the series so far. But like, we've seen it. Indiana can, make them get real frantic in some of these games. And so it's like, you got to think OKC's going, God, we should have put them away because of how they've got them acting at times.
Yeah, and no lead is safe with Indiana during this run. They're the team that keeps coming back late in games. So even if OKC's up 10, 4 minutes to go, it ain't over with them. They've got the heart of the champion. They've got the will of it. And I mean, I had a really funny feeling about them yesterday. If Halliburton played, I'm like, I think they're going to win in front of that crowd. but I didn't think it would be like that. And so I figured they'd squeak out one and force it back there because of the way they won. I wonder about the will of OKC now and the youth and who's stepping up and who's the leader in the room. Who's the one who calms them all down? Is it the coach? Is it Shea? Who's the person that sits everybody down and says, all right, we got this? Who settles them down? Because there's clearly Carlisle's done this a million times, already won a championship before. So they've got a really great coach. Siakam's won before. Siakam seems to do weird things in the locker room, that I think kind of keeps them engaged. They've got the good chemistry. We've talked about this and it's so sad, the state of affairs to say this about this sport, but the two teams who try really hard are in the finals, actually literally try really hard are in the finals. The other one though has got a little more experience, not as good a roster for sure, but a little more experience, a lot of resolve. I don't know. I never thought this series would end up here, but because it's here, it does feel like they got them where they want them. So unless Shea goes off, which is very possible, or J. Will goes off, which is very possible because they've got the two stars of the whole series. So in the NBA, if either one of them have iconic games, you're just not going to beat them. But I don't know. They're still a little young. They still look a little shaky, probably shakier than I thought they would here. I know what the resolve of the other team's going to be. I know how many times they've come back. I don't know. I have this feels like Indiana's going to pull it off, but we'll see.
I think the other side of this too, and I don't think it's as prevalent, but I just know how sports works too, is I'm going to guess locally OKC is probably talking about as well. Man, remember last time we were here and it was Durant and Westbrook and Harden and that team, and they never got an NBA championship out of that group. And here's this group with a guy who's got an MVP under his belt now and a really good roster and a million draft picks.
Similar too, because they were all very young when they got there to the finals together. And then, the team unraveled, which never should have been allowed to happen. They could have been a dynasty with that. At the age those guys were, they should have been a dynasty.
And so, I'm just saying, I don't think nationally people are talking about that, but you know how this goes locally. People are going, here we go again. How do we do this with this roster, with this player? Will they get back again? Because that group never got back again. And not only that, that group still, they don't run the league, but they're still all superstars in this league.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure to go under. And I'm just saying Indiana doesn't have that.
No,
I'm
they don't.
I'm not saying Indiana's not under pressure because they're both under pressure, but they don't have that kind of starting to loom over them. It's weird to think about OKC as being a place where they're thinking about choking, but I think there's got to be at least a sliver of that going through their heads a little bit.
Oh, I think this would be. Maybe not to a classic extent, but I think they're a way better team. This isn't. Yeah. That part's not close. They've got the two prolific stars on their team. Indiana's got really, really good players. Halliburton's really stepped up in the playoffs. Siakam's a champ. You could just see this. He's got the resolve. He's a pro. He's a champ. But Siakam isn't going to will a team and score 40. Shea could do that. J. Will could do that. I suppose Halliburton could do that. It doesn't seem in his DNA to be that way. He's not he actually defers a ton throughout the playoffs, and then eventually he has his moments and he takes over. There's two things happening here, and this is rare in basketball. You get this. I think we're going to have a hockey crowd in OKC. They're going to be sitting on their butts scared.
Yeah.
Because they're the home team here. They've got the better team. They're going to be feeling the pressure there. So if things start a little funny, I think you're going to hear the weird noises that you get out of a hockey crowd that is worried. Now, granted, the runs are the runs, and a goal is so enormous in hockey that it can really shake the building. But if Indiana gets out in front, I think you're going to feel it and hear it the same way that you feel like a hockey crowd here, because they will have blown it. It will be a choke. And while the players never want to hear this, because this is what, think about how everyone's received the Commanders since last season. Everyone's just telling them what an incredible job they did. That's Indiana. Win or lose, everybody in Indianapolis or anybody that's a fan of that team is going to be, this is the best season we've had in forever. Thank you so much. That was amazing. There's no they'd throw a parade for them either way because they didn't expect it to happen. They think it's awesome. They're going to pat them on the back. It's funny, like the Commanders have been like, our season didn't end right, guys. Like, I know, like, I appreciate you guys like what we did, but we didn't get where we wanted to get to. And I think Indiana might take the same position if they lose, but there is kind of a nothing to lose situation. No one's going to be mad at them if they lose there. Nobody is. They're all going to be like, what a run. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Can't wait to see what you do next year. OKC's totally different situation. They're all young. They're all under contract. None of them are going anywhere. This is not like, there's a chance that they could be doing this over and over with the team that they have, but they should win this year, and their fans know it, and they're going to be pissed. Like if they go the other direction, this doesn't happen. So we're going to have a hockey crowd, and you got the other team that probably internally knows we have a lot to lose. How many chances do you get like this? But externally, their fans are probably sitting there today. If you're on sports radio in Indiana today, they're talking about how great this is, what an incredible ride it's been. And if they're being honest, they're just going, I don't even care what happens in Game 7. This has been the ride of our lives with this team.
As I said, it's Nats 2019 World Series. Like, I remember that day for Game 7. It was very much, where else would you rather be? Like, I'm just happy they were in this position. And remember, it was, it was Max Scherzer's going to start today. What else would you want today? Like, remember, it was just kind of like like whatever happens, happens, but we're kind of happy of what happened. That's exactly the mindset that I think Indiana should be having right now. What I will say is this for OKC is I'd be very interested to see like what their front office, if they do lose tonight, if they actually overreact a little bit. They have 1 million draft picks. They could make some moves. Like, that's the craziest part. They're in the finals. They could win or lose, and they have a bunch of assets that they could actually make a move to. I think it'd be really interesting to see like what happens, win or lose, whether they want to make a move or not.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me get into some football stuff. And a couple things that I saw that were like apt comparisons to what happened to the Commanders a year ago and whether this could be replicated in other places. And one of them is Dallas in a different way. You've got to hear these quotes that are coming out about Brian Schottenheimer, where they're talking openly about how the skies have lifted. There's a new air going on down there, that he's a very relatable person, like very similarly to Dan Quinn a year ago when everybody initially questioned the hiring and we're like, wait a minute, like what's going on here? But all you heard about was the players love him. They vouch for him. They all want to play with him. He's a relationship builder. You'll see, actually, like the record spoke for itself with how good the defenses were that he had coached, how good Atlanta was, in the first couple of years, but there still was some doubt. This hiring was strange and different because he was on the staff. It didn't make sense that McCarthy was replaced by him. I still think it's a TBD on that one because this is a fresh start for everybody here. That's not there realistically. If you really think about it, like how much of a culture change is there when you upgrade the coach that no one expected who was already on the staff? But if you actually listen to like what they're saying about it, and some of this is off-season hype and hope and optimism, you'll actually hear that like all these players are saying they love him, that he's extremely relatable, that they're doing all these like off the field things together to try to re-engage chemistry. And, listen, they, again, not unlike last year, I'm like, they're kind of a linchpin on whether Washington is going to streamline back towards, in my opinion, towards the playoffs. They have just as hard a schedule pretty much as we do because they're playing the same divisions we are. So they've got a very difficult schedule to navigate too. They're just a total wild card because they do have a good team. They do have really good players. If Dak is healthy and motivated, and those things always seem to be the case with him, then they're dangerous and they're a linchpin. So I wonder, I guess we'll have to see. I know it's not apples to apples with what happened with Washington, but throughout the offseason, you kept hearing all these chemistry stories. I'm seeing it over and over with them that they're talking about that they're all relating to one another in a different way. So I guess we'll find out if it's true or not.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, too, the NFL is a little bit like every other, I wouldn't say like every other sport, but sometimes it reminds me of the NHL a little bit. Even good head coaches like Mike McCarthy, because we were saying we don't think McCarthy's a bad coach, right? Like they
Not
were
at all.
Pretty good regular season records. Last year went sideways, but he kept it on the tracks. Like
they were good by the end of the season.
Right. But sometimes it's a little bit NHL. Like I like to compare. Sometimes you're a good head coach and you just need a new voice in the locker room just to change things up. And you kind of look at how the Cowboys are. Well, you can't replace the quarterback. You're not going to replace the new wide receiver. You're not going to replace some of those defensive guys. So you replace the voice, at the front of the room, which is the head coach. And sure, we all kind of scoffed at Schottenheimer like it was going to be, it was kind of like, is this the guy? Sometimes you do just need that one voice that's different. It doesn't have to be better or worse, but just different to get guys motivated because you show up to work every day and the feeling's a little bit different. I'm not really surprised, but come talk to me after the Cowboys have to play that stretch where they have to play, what was it, like 5 straight 11-win teams or whatever the first time in NHL or NFL history. Like, they're going to go through some adversity. This is the equivalent, because I've seen this too. This is the coaching equivalent to I'm in the best shape of my life. So talk to me when you lose a few and Stephen A. Smith's coming out with the cowboy hat on Monday, making fun of you every week. Like, I'll hear you out right now, but come talk to me when the season actually starts.
I got to look at it again. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember looking through their schedule, and I think the scary part with them is like it gets really hard. What looks to be really extraordinarily hard, but at the end of the season. So there was a pathway to them having a really good, strong record so that they could take on a few of those hits and survive it. And so if they are 7-3, something like that, because the schedule dictates it, well, you can go 500 from there and still get to 10 or 11 wins. And that probably ends up in the playoffs. So I guess we'll just have to see how they handle this part of it. Here was another one, and it really rang true to me. Apparently, Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward are like best friends already. Like, that's already happening. Jeffrey Simmons is one of the most not talked about great defensive players in the NFL right now. One of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in the NFL right now. He reminds me of London Fletcher a lot. It's like if anyone has to have a question about whether he should be in the Hall of Fame when his career's over, it means you didn't pay any attention to him and he just didn't get the shine that he probably should have the whole time. But they apparently have, I was reading this stuff about them, that like he and Cam Ward have totally hit it off, that like they have the chemistry. And I remember one of the early things that was a really good sign about what was going to happen here was Bobby Wagner's never been here before, but is a certifiable Hall of Fame player. Like, we were shocked he came here in the first place. He'd never played anywhere outside the West Coast. And he showed up here to play for Quinn and all that. And then he became buddy-buddy with Jaden immediately. I think the work ethic really kind of linked them because they're the two that walk in the building at 5 o'clock in the morning. They like to do all the work early in the morning. But this one rang true to me too. And I saw this, I went, okay, like, let's see. Because of all the quarterbacks that were selected, and he was number 1 overall, he's really the only one that I buy of the ones that were like, I don't think I honestly feel like if he came out last year, Caleb, Jaden, May, maybe McCarthy, maybe Penix, probably not Nix, all still would have been picked ahead of him. Like, I still think like at least those top 3 would have. And I don't know that Penix would have, but somebody would have got a deal on Penix. It might have. I think he would have been the 4th quarterback of those 4, still to be selected. But it's very different year, very different class. He's kind of the only one that I buy that is coming in here that I think has a shot to be really good. And we'll see with the others, but I don't buy them. But this is actually a good sign because we lived this. Jaden became friends with Wagner, bought into the culture. Obviously, he's extremely talented, multifaceted player, very athletic, can move, got a very good arm, all those things kind of together. I'm not sure that Cam Ward's anywhere near as polished as Jaden was coming into the league, but I do buy his athleticism and his upside, and I do believe that it's there for them. That's a good sign. If like the all-pro who's going to be in their ring of fame is already buddied up with them, that's a good sign.
No, I really buy Cam Ward, especially after hearing him speak. Like, I don't know if you heard the end of their mini camp of the reporters asking him, like, what's next here? You got, 5-6 weeks off. What are you going to do? And he was just talking, just said, I'm going to get with the veterans, blah, blah, blah. Said kind of all the normal things. And they're like, what does that look like? He just goes, throwing the F out of the ball. And I don't know. I just loved that quote from him. And I look at him, I'm really big about like how quarterback sounds now. And all I know is I took one look at that guy and I go, that press conference is already better than any other one that I saw from Caleb Williams a year ago. Like that's the way I'm landing with Cam Ward, and that he's already winning me over with how he's handling himself, how he's speaking. And you know how this works. If a guy works his ass off and he fails, it's easier to swallow as a fan base in an organization because you're going to, at least he worked his ass off and he's not slacking off and he's really trying hard. It seems like they've got a hit here. I would also say this too. When it finally came out that the Titans were going to pick him, the whole league was kind of like, yep, that's the move. Like, it was almost like the rest of the league kept quiet to see if the Titans were actually going to, like, pick him a little bit. And then they finally did decide, and everyone went, yep, that's the right call. It was almost like unanimous, but no one wanted to say it to see if they were actually going to make the right call.
The way that, I agree, the way that he handled the pre-draft process was very telling about who he is.
Yep.
And he's got a Jaden-esque story. He transferred from different places to end up at Miami. He same thing, just kept getting better and better and better and better. He honestly, if it wasn't for the season that Travis Hunter was having, he's a legitimate Heisman candidate too. A year ago, like should have been. Genty and Hunter with the both sides of the ball thing and being so dominant. So unusual. It was hard for him not to get it. And Genty having such a dominant season at his position, I think it was hard for Ward to be there. But if he had ended up, getting it, I really honestly wouldn't have been surprised. It was very Jaden-esque the way he kind of like rose. So I've bought into him too. I never bought into Shedeur. And now, so the pre-draft process was not great. Some of it still feels like to me that he bailed on some of it on purpose because he didn't want some teams to take him. It sounds like he was insolent or irresponsible or unprofessional at best. And I think some of that was probably done on purpose because he and his father had openly stated, that they kind of wanted to control the process a little bit. The problem is with him that I felt all along, and I was out with a friend last night and I was talking to him about it because he brought him up and he's like, I think he's going to end up being good. And I go, I'll take whatever that bet is and take the under on it. Cause I'm like, I don't. And I'm like, hey, it's the attitude, which you're going to have to he's going to have a welcome to the NFL, come to Jesus, you're not that great situation, or he's a lot better than I think he is. And now, what are the headlines about him? Since he's been drafted in the 5th round, which I think was ridiculous, and he's in a tough spot because that team hasn't won crap in forever, and now he's a 5th round pick vying to potentially be the starter as the 5th round pick. The whole setup's bad. It just screams terrible. What are the stories about him? Spent a ton of money on a car, which I don't have an issue with, but apparently races it or goes 100 miles an hour. And then apparently one of these traffic stops, because there's multiple of them, he's got a girl, I don't know if it's his girlfriend or not, in a separate car. She's going 95 miles an hour. And they're not going so far to say that they're racing, but sounds like it, or they're both just irresponsible. I don't want to go crazy on speeding, although this is outrageous, to do that. I don't want to sound like the old man who's like, tisk, tisk, how do you do this? However, these are just signs of irresponsibility. And as much as Cam Ward has seemingly done kind of everything right, sounds the part, looks the part, says the part, Shedeur has done everything wrong. And here's just another example of it. And there's probably some teams that are looking at this going see, I told you. It's not even he doesn't seem to have the athletic upside of Cam Ward. And secondarily, is he responsible enough to understand what it means to be in this position? And these in the offseason, they're just examples that I don't think he's a terrible person or anything like that. But these are these type of things where you're that's my starting quarterback? Really?
Yeah, this is one of those things where if you have somebody that has a squeaky clean record and it happens, you go, oh, all right, that's a mistake. Let's hope they learn from that one. Get it out of your system now. Shedeur has all of these things coming into the league, did drop. You would think, oh, I've got to stay really clean to make sure that I'm good to go from here on out. He doesn't. I will say this too, that what kind of weirded me out about this one was not exactly what happened, but the spin zone from some of the aggregate accounts, the Dove Kleinman, those types, where it was he was stopped and he was super humble to the cop. And I was like, wait a minute. When are we talking about how nice somebody is when they're pulled over. And I was kind of like, this reeks of like the Sanders family almost being like, hey, can you push how nice he was when he got pulled over? Like, I don't really care either way. I talk about it all the
He
time.
didn't
How
give the cops a hard time. You know,
right.
he is a response. He made a mistake. Don't judge him on a mistake.
Yeah, and
Like that. Yeah.
I'm like, when do we do that? And not
Yeah.
to mention, he's the son of an NFL superstar. Like, he actually shouldn't get that benefit of the doubt that some other guys get. I just think it feels really weird and like, I don't know, very
Yeah.
processed that they were like standing up for him this fast. I'll say what I always say with athletes this young is that they're in their early 20s. They're out of college now. They make some mistakes as professionals sometimes, but he's under the microscope way more than others. He's got to be way smarter than this. And like, come on, like, there's no reason for you to be driving over 100 miles an hour
I
here.
agree.
Like, I've said this before too. Like, when you become a pro athlete, I say hire a driver. Like, don't even drive places. Like,
Yeah.
that's if I had that much money, I wouldn't drive at all. Like, seriously, that's what I would
Right,
do.
he's
But
coming out of NIL land where he's Deion's son and was a very good quarterback at a high tier school. He made a lot of money. He
right.
walked into the league with a lot of money. This is the different part of the new times. These players have money before
Right.
they even walk into the league. That was never the case before.
And so, like, here's the thing: what I'll say is, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it, but it is a come on, man. Like, you are already under the microscope. You make this mistake, stay clean from here on out. Because, like, here's the other thing that's funny: you were drafted in the 5th round, and you're still probably going to start some games this year. Like, don't throw that
That's
away.
right.
Like, don't throw that opportunity away. The Browns clearly are looking for an option after Deshaun. You have the opportunity to do this, so hopefully he learns from it.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a quick break. Brave wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I want to talk about the Lakers for a minute, who the majority of which were sold at a $10 billion valuation. This just a couple months after the Celtics were sold for $6 billion, which seems really off, like honestly. And I wonder if the ex-owners of the Celtics are going, excuse me, or if the Lakers are indeed worth that much more. The Celtics are the most accomplished franchise outside of the Yankees in sports history. They are one of the pillar franchises of the NBA, but they're not LA, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm surprised that these valuations occurred, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there. This is another sign of sports is going to be very hard to be a family-owned business unless the family happens to have the last name of Bezos or Musk, or, you know, like, you've got to be amongst the uber wealthy to do this, or you're going to go down the track like the Commanders have, where, yes, Josh Harris is the primary majority owner, but this is run really by a hedge fund more than anything. We have a lot of owners and a lot of access to capital when necessary, i.e., look what's happening at RFK Stadium. They're raising the money to help hopefully get this to go through. Even now, the Lakers, and this is why I think the Cowboys are probably coming soon. If the Lakers are worth 10, what are the Cowboys worth? And Jerry Jones at his age, it's an interesting question. Do his kids want to get out of the Cowboys business when the dad either decides, you know, it's time for me to step back, which doesn't sound like it's happening anytime soon, but because of his age and because he's clearly lost his fastball, who knows? Maybe they'll never get rid of it, but you know, everything else around them is screaming institutional money is taking over sports. It's happened here with the Lakers. It's happened in the NFL. And so I think this is really more of a sign of the times that the Buss family's just going, you know what? Like, the new world of sports is institutional money. We're never going to be able to keep up unless we just keep taking on partners, or we could sell at this valuation. And I think they did the right thing.
I do think the difference between all these and the Cowboys is Jerry does have his kids heavily involved. Like, they are within the organization. I think there's a big difference there. And that tells me
the Irsay kids literally just took over the Colts after the passing of Jim Irsay. Like, and there's no discussion of them selling the team at all.
Right. So what I'll say is, like, I think the Cowboys, like, I think they actually stay within the family, I think, but we'll see, obviously. With the Lakers, it's really just, it's Jeannie Buss. And she's going to pull the Cuban, right? Like, she's going to be, you know, running the organization, or I forget what her actual title is for the Lakers. So she'll stick around for a little bit. I think this is also just a point of, I think the Lakers they have a facade. Like, yes, they're the Lakers and they make these moves and stuff, but like them being run as an actual franchise has been a little bit wonky in my opinion. Like, yes, they get the superstars because they're the Lakers, but we scratch our heads at their moves all the time. It's their fan base that's always going, "Oh yeah, we got whoever, and he's gonna be a superstar." Luka aside, and we would always go like, "How delusional is this fan base?"
Yeah.
It's because they were just making moves to make moves. I actually think because they have an organization now that's run in sports, they might be a little bit better. But I also think the difference between the Lakers and the Celtics is market and is the marketability period. Like, the Celtics are a classic franchise, but Boston ain't LA, and the Lakers, are not the Celtics in terms of what they are as a brand. I see way more Lakers stuff than I do Celtics stuff all over the place.
On the Jeannie Buss is staying in her role thing, I'll believe it when I see it. It might be in title only. I have a feeling Rob Pelinka, this is my guess, is going to be in big trouble here. And that, does she run the Lakers? Sure. Rob Pelinka makes these choices, or LeBron. Like, you figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Like, the new ownership is going to have a new front office. And GD Buss might be sitting courtside and have this title, but that's my guess, that they're going to, bring in whatever they bring in to change the front office, and we'll see. This led me to think about Ted a little bit here. The valuations of these teams have skyrocketed, obviously. A lot of it is because institutional money has come in. Ted is already at the forefront of taking some money from a private investment fund. He took it from Qatar. And this wave, he's not the only one that's going to be doing this. He's one of the first that has done it. And I believe that at some point they're going to open the door for more of that kind of money to come into sports. Whether you think that's good or bad is neither here nor there. I think it's a reality. Hedge fund institutional money that's, at least American based, at least in its face, is taking over in a lot of ways throughout sports. I think to compete, you kind of need it. These franchises are being viewed as real estate holding companies, and you have to be able to raise a lot of money. It can't really be a family-run business, I think, in the future in general, unless you are the uber wealthy family that's willing to spend. And I've thought about Ted. I don't think he's selling the Wizards. I really don't. Like, even if they came to him and said the valuation for the Wizards is $6 billion now or something like that, I don't think he would. But I do wonder, off of all of this, does he consider selling a majority stake of the Wizards and owning a minority stake and still having all of the media rights and Monumental and all those things? I doubt it, because I don't think that's what he wants to do. I don't get the sense that's what he wants to do. But I've thought about it now, especially off of the way these things are rising. And then you get a $10 billion valuation, and the Wizards aren't the Lakers. They aren't going to get that kind of money, but the Suns got $6 billion. I think it's reasonable to think the Wizards could get $6 billion. If that's what the Suns got, he could sell a portion or a majority portion, if he wanted to, at a valuation like that, and have a deal where they own still the media rights and still be that part of it. So I don't know. I was just thinking about Ted and options for the future about what the Wizards may look like off of a sale like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ted, though, the majority of his, his portfolio is owning two of the major four franchises here.
That's why I don't think he would do it. I was just thinking about him because of these valuations. He's a smart and forward-thinking business person, as we've had around here. And I don't know how he doesn't look at this and go, what are my options?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he's angling for it here either, though. He's already got basically a revamped arena on the way with space that he didn't have before. They're adding all these luxury seats. His hockey team continues to click. We're talking about the post-Ovechkin era, and it looks like things will be fine without Ovechkin. I think if there was a reason to move, he would. But, look at how bad the Wizards have been. Look at how bad their luck has been. I don't know if you saw the article the other day of front offices in the NBA felt bad for them for what happened in the lottery earlier this year. And so the fact of the matter is he's still making money hand over fist. I don't see him moving. I'm with you. Maybe he sees that and he's tempted by it. But the other thing, too, is I'll go back to what I said about the Cowboys. Zach Leontis is fully involved with these franchises. It's kind of in the family now. I don't see Ted moving on from either one.
Here's the thing I would ask, and I don't see a pathway to this immediately. Some of it's bad luck, and some of it is is Sar or Koulibaly or Bub, are they going to be stars, right?
Right.
Like, are they going to become OKC? If they do, the decision you have to make at that point is how far over the cap are you willing to commit the money to do it? And that's where institutional money may matter. They're not at that point right now because they've got guys on low tier rookie contracts and none of them are screaming max them out. None of them are. I think Sar is tracking more than the others to potentially do that, but it's very early in that process. This is where I think he'd have to think about, like, what's the future look like? But it's only if he has a team that is forced to pay that kind of money. Personally, that's where I think it'll come. All right, let me take a quick break. Brand Buster Show is at 6:30, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I'd like to congratulate the Washington Nationals on ending their 11-game losing streak, needing a walk-off home run to defeat the Rockies of all team after they had lost the first couple games to them. Davies in the crosshairs for sure. Still getting discussed. I think it was Talk Nats, who I follow on Twitter, and they wrote some kind of, why is everybody talking about us now? Because they stink, and there's a lot of good things that are going on here. And no offense, like, welcome to media. Like, I hate to break it to you, but like sometimes you get attention for the wrong stuff and the bad stuff. And in this case, it wasn't just that they were losing, it was who they were losing to and how they were losing. And then when Davey said what he said last week about don't blame the coaches, of course they're going to get a lot of attention for that. And then people, put them under a microscope and go, all right, what is going on here? And yeah, you're right. A lot of people haven't been following the story the way you have. They are now. You're not going to like that. Welcome to media. Like, the majority of the people that are going to pay attention to your team are not going to be the P1s who do it every day with you. They're the people that dive in when either something great or something terrible is going on. And right now it's something terrible. Sorry, I hate to break it to you, but like, welcome to the media news cycles.
Yeah, I mean, as I said too, when we talked about this on Monday, with Davey, this was the whole thing with Davey. He normally keeps the waters calm, and this was one of the few times where he decided to kind of pipe up and say something like that. And that's when I asked the question of, well, you're usually, you're the World Series winning manager, and you usually like to keep the waters calm, and you decided to rough the waters. Well, guess what comes with that? A lot of questions about your future. And I think what happened here, and I kind of liked, but Mike Rizzo, of course, was on with WJFK. He was on for a long interview with the Junkies. And
yeah, I talked about a little of it yesterday, but yes.
And there were two things that I wouldn't say bothered me, but I perked up at. One was, Rizzo said something along the lines, it was big within the fan base. And it was like, yeah, dude, because we're kind of frustrated with how things have gone. Ownership doesn't talk and doesn't spend, and it manifests in these types of things throughout a season. And that's what gets us really frustrated because you're kind of just getting, as I said, you're getting used to losing now. That's never good with an organization.
He also likes to throw the ring at everybody and go, but I produced the ring. So,
right.
And listen, that's a hell of an argument, and it's hard to argue against it. And I'm not dismissing that, but it's more and more and more in the rearview mirror. You promised a rebuild. That rebuild is not going in the direction that you promised or discussed. And it might be on your timeline, but it is not one that you prepped me for. So I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, he did that when they made the trades, when he threw the ring out there. And I said, all right, like, you could play that card and go, a lot of us do not agree with what you've done here, but it's hard to argue with you because you have done this before. Granted, ownership was spending a lot of money at the time, and they're not right now. And that's not his fault if they're not going to do that. But the thing that got me the other day with that interview was he kind of threw the ring out because he was like, the Rockies haven't won a World Series. The Orioles haven't won one in a long time. The Pirates haven't won one since the 70s. Like, here's my ring. Don't lump me in with them. And I'm kind of like, after the Ken Rosenthal piece, and I was like, you guys act like them. You act like the Pirates now. So like, don't so you can't have it both ways. The World Series is amazing. I don't want to ever diminish it, ever, ever, ever. But like, the reasoning why you did all the things you did was to rebuild a championship style roster. And I don't see it. None of us do. And now the team is in a rut and you're throwing the ring at me anyway, going, give me more time. That's a hard one to square a little bit.
on that one, it was talking about the managerial part of that because they were going, the O's fired Hyde, hasn't won anything. They haven't won anything since Davey Johnson was there, right? That was more about the managerial thing, and I'll hear him out on that because I have said that like Davey, if anybody deserves to finish out a season, it probably is him. But at the same time, things are getting so bad. Like, when do you think they're going to make a move?
Am I wrong about this? I don't think Davey was the manager of the Orioles when they won the World Series.
I
wasn't alive.
I wasn't alive.
That I went. Davey was the manager of the Orioles teams that got close with Alomar, Palmeiro, and Mussina and all that. They didn't win though. They never won. They got close. They never won. I thought it was Joe Altobelli was the manager. Like, I don't know, whatever.
Maybe it was when they were close. Maybe that's what he was referencing.
Yeah, like they didn't win with those. They got very close, but they didn't win with those teams.
Right. So that's what I'll do. The other quote that I think, everyone should have been talking about was Rizzo saying, if we make a jump here, hopefully we'll spend. And I went, you got to be kidding me that even he is kind of saying, hopefully. Like, he doesn't even know if they make a jump here in the second half that they're going to spend on the offseason. That's where I think everybody needs to start throwing the red flag.
I don't like that either because he's separating himself from here are the things I need to win. And oh, by the way, I've won a ring. I'll throw it at you. Meantime, that did involve the team spending at the time, right? They did get Max Scherzer. They did extend Steven Strasburg.
Yep.
They did pay for Jason Worth. Like it's not like these things didn't happen, right? So like you can't have it every way. I think is like kind of what I got here. I did the one answer. I didn't talk about this yesterday, but the one answer that he said about Davey that I did appreciate was he said, what did he do? 500 interviews last year. And this one time, he heat of the moment said something, maybe he didn't totally mean. I'll hear him on that. Because Davey is accessible. He does do the press things. And yes, it's very frustrating. And he did say that. The other one that really stood out was when he was talking about all the, would you fire him stuff? He basically said, these are my feelings right now. Right now does a lot of work. When you don't say he's our manager, guys, like when you just say these are my feelings right now, it's very, very telling statement to say. And I think, maybe it's the truth. If this streak doesn't end or they lose 19 of 20 or whatever, maybe they will make a change, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. That part was very it was somewhat defending him, but that right now does a lot of work towards giving me the feeling that they're at least thinking they've got to do something here.
I will settle back into this, and I hate to go this route, but it's just how my brain works. Is I didn't think this was going to be a successful season with the way that the roster was, and I have to go full blown how we used to talk about the Commanders. It starts with the ownership on down. I have no idea if this ownership wants to win anymore. I have no idea if they're going to spend, even if they make this jump. Yesterday was a prime example, by the way, of James Wood is a freaking superstar. He put the whole entire team on his back, hit 2 home runs to win them that game, including a walk-off. Like, that should be a guy that everybody should be going out and rushing out to buy his jersey and, get behind him in the city. But guess what? You guys have literally never re-signed a superstar outside of Ryan Zimmerman and Steven Strasburg.
You make your own bed with this stuff. That's right.
And I want to buy in. I want to, go all in on James Wood. But you know what? I know what the track record is now for the past literally 15 years since you've owned the team. And it's hard for me to even buy in when you're having a bad season on a good player like that, because I don't know if he's going to be here, in 3 years. And that's where it's a really tough pill to swallow, because I want to take in these good moments, but it's hard to, because I have no idea what you want to do moving forward.
This is the after effect of trading Soto prematurely, of not figuring something out with Bryce Harper, of trading Trey Turner in his prime. Yep. These are the after effects. When you do things like that, nobody trusts you that you are, when you get another great player, that you're going to bring them back. And they may have to suck it up and write a check to somebody. And he seems like the most logical candidate. Granted, it's very early in the process and they don't have any pressure to do it right now. But eventually they are going to have to do that to show everybody they are committed to good players.
And I think I mentioned this like a month ago. Talk Nats talked about how the Nats basically said to some of their, marketing and ticket people, if the numbers weren't better, heads were going to roll. And we saw a couple people leave the organization. And all I could think of was, guys, who did that? Like, you guys are the ones that aren't putting superstars out there or re-signing anybody. There's a reason why people aren't doing that. It's not about promotions at this point. It's about, hey, I want to commit to this team because you're committing to this team. You're not doing that. And what I hate about that is that's 5 years after you started your rebuild, essentially. That's really complacent for someone that's owned the team now for 15 plus years. That's where I'm concerned about this is, do you not see why people don't want to go to games as much anymore? That you're not just appealing to the interns on Capitol Hill anymore. It's because people want a reason to go out there and support you. And I don't know, you're not really supporting your own ball club. So why should we? I think that's where a lot of people are landing at this point.
All right, everybody. Got to run. Everybody have a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday. Brave Wants to Show you at 6:30 Sports Capital.